Hi, in this video I'm going to talk about miracles for the AQA Religious Studies A-Level Paper 1. This is a pretty easy topic, I think, for most people to wrap their heads around, so let's just do it. And also remember that I am not a teacher, I am a student who is desperately hoping to get into university to study this. So anyway, this is just a quick summary of what this is going to go through, basically all the important stuff, or most of the important stuff, because if it was all the important stuff, then I'd never remember any of it. So yeah. First off, realist views. So people who believe that miracles are violations of natural law. So what this means is they might see it as a fact. So realists about miracles say that they are historical objective facts. So, the ones that are recounted in the Bible, that happened, for sure. There's no way of saying that it didn't, because it's just like an objective truth. And even if you don't believe it, that doesn't matter, the miracle still occurred. Also, they are usually basically impossible. David Hume explains that miracles are events that could only be brought about by the intervention of God, which is interesting because he doesn't believe in them, but that's how he defines them. So, first off, we have Augustine, the icon, the man, the myth, the legend, on miracles. He defines them as anything which appears arduous or unusual, beyond the expectations or ability of the one who marvels at it. But interestingly enough, he denied that they were violations of natural law. So he took a completely different approach. He said that a miracle is something that God does which is contrary to what we know of nature. So we perceive it as a violation of natural law, but that's not actually what it is. And Aquinas, he agrees with that. He says that there are ways, though, that God can surpass the power of nature. He gave, I accidentally put two twice. He gave three examples. First one being that God could do something that nature could not. So, for example, he could stop the sun from moving or going up and down. He says that God could do something that nature could do, but not in the same order. So he could make someone who is paralyzed walk again, when nature would make the person walking paralyzed. And God could do something that nature could do, but without using natural principles. So he could suddenly stop a storm instead of, a storm having to kind of like peter out a little bit. And there are many accounts of natural violations that were discussed in, you guessed it, the Bible. First one, Luke chapter 5 verse 24, Jesus heals a paralyzed man. Exodus and Joshua, God parting the Red Sea and God stopping the sun, which Aquinas described. Mark, where Jesus raises the daughter of Jairus from the dead. More Mark, where Jesus walks on water. And in Matthew, when Jesus cleanses a man of leprosy. So you can see like the big ones there. It's like healing someone from something impossible to be healed from, raising someone from the dead, or violating the supposed laws of nature. But some people do not believe that miracles are something that goes against nature. They just think it's a natural event in whatever way. So the key factors of this are that miracles are subjective. So an example of this would be a couple who are infertile, they pray all the time and then they become pregnant. To them, they would believe that to be a miracle when, it could be argued that, it was just very unlikely that she could become pregnant, not like completely impossible. And symbolic, where instead of it being an actual historic fact, biblical stories are supposed to just teach you about God's nature. So R.F. Holland, this bloke right here, he had a lot to say about miracles, and he defined a miracle as an event of religious significance. So he said that a miracle did exist, but not in the way that a realist would say. So he said that it was something that someone would interpret in a religious fashion. So his example of this was there's a child, for some reason, on the train tracks, and the mother is too far away to run and save her child, I guess. So she starts praying that the child is saved, and the train driver passes out, and the train emergency brakes, and it saves the child. To her, this is a miracle, because she believed it to be an act of God, when in reality it was just an amazing coincidence. But because she perceived it that way as divine intervention, it's a miracle. Paul Tillich, who I could only find a statue of, even though he didn't die that long ago, he was more concerned with the impression a miracle left on the person. So if it was something that was like so shocking and it changed your whole perception of reality, and you can't think of any other way to define it other than it being an act of God, then that's a miracle for you. It doesn't need to be a violation of nature. And of course, here comes Hume, as usual. In his book, An Inquiry Concerning Human Understanding, which is a bit of a mouthful, he said that if someone claims a miracle happened, then that claim goes against all evidence we have for how nature works. So remember that Hume is an empiricist. He's putting all his money on evidence-based understanding of things. So, if one person says, oh my gosh, there was a miracle, well, that just goes against literally all the other people who say, well, we observe natural laws every day. He also claims that there has never been enough trustworthy witnesses, so just slandering people. And he goes even further. He even says that religious people have a vested interest. So it's like, if you want something to be true, then you're more likely to see it, So they're more likely to perceive something as a miracle because it supports their beliefs. Maurice Wiles, I couldn't find a picture of him either, so instead I put a picture of a cute bat on. So he actually criticises from a theological perspective. Hume is more philosophical, but this is more theological because Wiles disagrees with the idea of an interventionist God, because he says that it's not compatible with the Christian God. So what he's saying here is that a loving God wouldn't intervene on some things, but not on other things. Because it's like, well, why didn't he prevent 9/11? Or the Holocaust? Or Wendy Williams getting dementia? Or Princess Diana dying? Insert any terrible thing there that wasn't prevented. It's like, why would he intervene in some places and not others? That's not a loving God. That's someone who picks and chooses who to save, which is not compatible with the God that we are told about in mostly the New Testament. But what does this mean for religious believers? So fundamentalists, think like Mormons and literalist Christians would be like, this is really offensive, because they believe miracles absolutely happen, and if they didn't, then that would completely destroy the foundation of their religion. Because if you think about it though, Jesus raising from the dead is a miracle in of itself. I mean, if you were to take away all miracles from Christians, well, there wouldn't really be anything for them to stand on, because Jesus being resurrected, that wouldn't then be possible. The Swinburne, he says that although they are rare, miraculous healing has occurred, and that can be proof enough for Christians. Obviously, many Christians today would understand and maybe even adopt the anti-realist view. They're more likely to say, oh, well, maybe all those things didn't happen, certain ones did, but, maybe others were just, facts in the sense that it tells you about God, not what God actually did. So that's it. Thank you for watching.